Hi, I'm Craig. Thanks for joining me for this video. For today's project, we're going to make a little Christmas present, little made-at-home jobby. Nice little stand-up Christmas tree. You can use it either stake it in front of your yard, lean it up against a wall, just kind of general country home kind of decoration. As you can see, just rough lumber works out real well. This is actually reclaimed fencing, just privacy fence, nice thin wood, real comfy to work with. Easy to cut and not too bad to do. Simple project, take probably an hour. So, the only part of this that's actually new wood is the stem itself, and that I just used because I had it laying around. So for me, it was extra wood. Real simple project. Anybody can do it. So join me. Let's do it. Okay, because I'm super smooth, I totally forgot to record the audio for this, so we're going to voice over it. First thing I'm doing is I'm setting the fence to a 1/2 inch and going to cut the bases for the trees, the trunks. This is new wood, but it's just something I had laying around, so it worked out real well. It's just pine, nothing special at all. Just a decently straight board, and that's about it. So I'm cutting this, I think it was either 1/2 inch or 3/4, but either way, roughly a square piece. Once again, just nothing special. So I already had one, so I'm doing 5 more for a grand total of 6. And this is where I tell you about the fact that this is reclaimed fence posts, comes off of privacy fence, and it's fairly thin. I'm guessing 1/4 inch by 5 inch maybe. It's just nice, cheap, very rough sawn wood. Nothing at all normally finished grade or anything like that. It's just considered kind of throwaway wood that they use to make privacy fence out of. And one of the things with reclaimed wood is it's not real uncommon at all to have nails in it. So one of the things I have to do here is go through and pull out a couple stray nails. There's very, very few. Whoever originally had pulled this wood did a pretty good job of it. But there's still a handful of nails and stuff I gotta pull out. So I break out the pliers and pull them out. And you do not have to be careful with this. This being like kind of a country rough sawn kind of project, little holes and knots and stuff really don't matter at all. They just kind of add to the character of it. You don't have to worry about a finish or anything like that, so it makes it super easy and super friendly. And after I've checked for nails and made sure the wood's all good, then I go into setting the fence to 1.5 inches. And I'm going to use this 1.5 inches to split apart the boards into longer strips, so I can use the strips for the project. So now, having made my cuts to get the long boards to start with for my material, now I need to make the cuts for the actual branches themselves. They start out at 4 inches and increase 2 inches at a time until you get to 18 inches. The last ones are 18 inches. And these are just my numbers. You can come up with whatever you like, but that's what works for me. So as far as the cut list, you need to make 1 at 4 inches, 2 at 6 inches, 2 at 8 inches, 2 at 10, 2 at 12, 2 at 14, 2 at 16, and 1 at 18. So basically you'll have one of the shortest and one of the longest. And that seems to get me the look that I'm going for with the trees. And also keep in mind that I'm making a total of 6 trees. So take that cut list and multiply it times 6 to get the numbers you need. And there's a lot of cuts, so just take your time. It's repetitious, but you can make a good product. Now that you have all your chunks of wood cut to the appropriate lengths, now what we're going to do is adjust the table saw to 30 degrees. 30 degrees is an arbitrary number that I picked. I think it looks good. You can try whatever you want, but that's what worked good for me. Kind of got the good final result that I'm wanting. Basically, you're lining up all of your pieces into one big block and cutting sides at 30 degrees, cutting the ends, the small thin ends. That gives you the points on the end of the kind of tree branches. So basically cut every one of them, both sides, to 30 degrees. And it gives you a great look, gives you the little points you're looking for. Makes a nice little kind of triangular shape. But like I said, 30 degrees is just what I picked. You can try whatever you want. And one kind of helpful tip with this too, for the look, figure that everybody's going to be looking at fairly much top down. So they're going to look at it, standing above it, looking down. Therefore, when you're making your cuts, you want the rough side of the wood facing up, and it'll give you the best overall look. That way the clean cut side is facing down, so people don't necessarily see that. So it makes it kind of an easy way to hide the look you're not going for and emphasize the look you are going for. So keep the rough sides of the ends, because you got one rough side and one cut side. The rough sides, put those up, slide them through the table saw. You should get a really good product. So now here we are ready for assembly. We got all our part list cut, we're ready to just put it together. First thing I'm going to show you here is what those 30-degree angles did. They gave the corners on the sides of our tree limb parts, gives a good angle, makes it look pretty good. And if you hold the whole block of these together, that's what I was talking about when I was talking about cutting them. Hold the whole block together and it makes it really easy to get those 30-degree angles. You can cut the entire set of them all at once. Gives you something to hold on to so you're not trying to fight the skinny board the whole time, and each board will help keep the other board straight. And the way that this was cut, we cut an 1.5 inch wide strip that'll make the branches. Well, due to this wood being somewhere between 4 and 5 inches, we've got about an inch left in the middle that came out as one long strip. Those strips are definitely useful. Those are something I cut these to 22.5 inches, and they are used as the side supports to help hold everything together. So it's, once again, scrap cut off wood that actually is a functional part in this whole equation. So these skinny parts, like I said, they're 22.5 inches for this particular one, and they will go diagonal on the outside. Okay, let's begin our lay. First, you start with one of the smallest pieces, one of the 4-inch pieces. Lay that at the top. Then you grab 2 of the 6s, put those in place. I usually leave somewhere under a pencil gap, give or take. So you get 2 of the pieces, and you're looking for that little bit of a jagged edge to where they don't make an actual triangle, but kind of space it. Then you grab the 8-inch piece, 2 of those, do the same thing, and you basically just repeat all the way through. And so your goal here is to get kind of a jagged, evergreen kind of look, kind of a triangle within a triangle within a triangle kind of thing. And it gives it an overall just tree appearance just by doing 1 at the top, and then 2, 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 all the way down until you get the single one at the bottom. And you finish it off with the 18-inch piece from the bottom. Once you're at this point, now come your diagonals. Remember, these are basically just for reinforcements. They don't have to be perfect, but you're trying to get them just inside the outside so you don't see them from the sides too much. So, okay, now comes the part where I'm a little bit off in my adjustment, so all I gotta do is just tighten up the gaps a little bit. It's not a problem at all. Keeps it moving. And you can always recut the boards longer if you want them, the short side supports. I prefer just to squeeze gaps in a little bit tighter. As long as it has a gap, you're getting the look you're going for. The size of the gap is fairly irrelevant. So tighten those up a little bit. And try and keep them relatively straight, because you'll definitely notice if they're super crooked. A little bit of crooked's not the end of the world, but every little bit gets magnified. And then try out the support again, see if it fits. And we're good to go. Got to tighten up just enough. You can, like I said, you can make it tighter, you can make it looser, whatever works for you. So, what we're going to do here is we're going to get ready for glue. You'll want glue on each slat so it holds onto the back. And the way I find it works real well is set your long diagonal support right next to where it's going to be, and then glue along that line. It gives you some place to kind of define your line. The one thing you want to try and avoid is getting glue in between the boards so you can see it. So you don't want to just coat the whole diagonal stick and then put it in place, because every bit of glue in between is an opportunity for the glue to be showing, and your goal is to not have any glue fasteners or anything to show. So put it right next to the diagonal and then move the diagonal into place. Now we're going to get our nailer. I'm using 5/8 staples. The 5/8 staples are just enough basically to go through both halves enough. It's not excessive, it doesn't shoot all the way through the table or anything, but it shoots through enough to grab. As with anything, the glue is going to be the actual holding power. The staples are just basically to keep it all in place while the glue dries. So the staples are almost more of a clamp than anything. They're not the structural support of the whole thing at all. The glue is very, very strong when it dries. Wood glue is beautiful stuff. So I go through and I'm just shooting one in each one, just trying to press it down, keep it held as close as possible, because remember, all the boards being rough sawn are varying widths, very varying thicknesses. They're not quite the same. They're close, but they're not quite the same. So I got to kind of give it a little force to make sure that my staple goes in. Then we're going to do the exact same thing on the other side, lining up right next to where we want to be, and drop a little glue on each of the boards. And like I said, your main goal here is just to keep the glue out from in between the boards, because it's a very noticeable thing, and it's something that'll stick out. Even though you paint it over it, it'll still look different. So you work your way down the line here, and do the exact same thing, just dropping the board in place. And then we're back to the stapler. Good 5/8 inch by quarter crown staples. Go right in and hold it rock solid. Thing's not moving. And this will also give you the chance to correct any diagonal spots or anything you have. If one of your boards is moved just slightly or anything, it's real easy to just kind of wiggle it into place the tiny bit that it needs to go. So once you have those all connected, now we're going to move on to painting, because we don't want to do the tree trunk yet. You attach the tree trunk after it's painted, because right now you need to paint the trunk and you need to paint the separate color on the tree, so you want to keep them separate. But that's rock solid, it's not going anywhere. Let the glue go ahead and start setting up. I find it's really easy for something like this to lay out a couple paper towels to use as the base so it doesn't get my workbench all coated in paint. So I've been using this Rust-Oleum 2X. I don't even remember the name of the actual line, but it's actually been really good. It's paint and primer. They've got a lot of colors of it, so I found it works really well. So you give it a coating. It does not have to be a thick coating at all. You wanna cover it, but you don't really need to make it perfect, because once again you're going for a semi-rustic, semi-country look to it, so it does not have to be flawless. And I've been doing 3 sides total. I don't do the back because it seems pointless to me, but I do the other 2 sides. And it turns out pretty well. So I do 3 total sides. Give it a good coat, but like I said, if you're showing a little bit through the bottom or whatever, it really doesn't matter. It's not going to hurt anything. And now we let it dry. And just like that, we're dry. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and do the second part of this. Cheap black spray paint. This is the 99-cent a can stuff. I don't need any sort of amazing staying power. I don't need any sort of coverage. I just need cheap, thin black spray paint. Take a big wad of paper towels, and you're going to shoot just a relatively quick, simple line right down the brown trunk there, and then wipe the majority of it off. What you're looking for is basically just some streaking. You're trying to create kind of a tree grain visually. The wood itself has grain, but it doesn't show nearly as well as this will. This gives you just a little bit of texture to it, gives a little bit better look, and it's super easy to do. So now we're going to go ahead and set this over to the side. Just kind of get it out of our way. Give us some room to paint the actual main part of the tree. But first, I'm going to go ahead and clean off my prepper area here. Make a little bit of room. And then we're going to grab the sander. We're going to knock out some sanding on this real quick because it's much rougher wood. You don't really need to worry about smoothing anything per se. You just want to basically pre-knock off any splinters or anything that people might catch. I round over the inch just a little bit, just makes it a little bit nicer. But I'm going real quick through this. Using 60 grit sandpaper. 60 grit's great for just knocking off a lot. It does not give you a glossy finish by any means. It just does a lot of work real quick. So as you can see, I'm kind of just rounding the ends over, make them just a little bit more appealing, looking for anything that I can see that's almost like loose wood from the rough cut, and just knocking that off, making it so it's relatively splinter free. The paint will do a little bit of sealing to keep everything together, but for the most part you just want to pre-knock off anything you can, anything that seems like it might be a little loose or getting loose very easily. See, I'm just kind of real quick running over it. I'm not spent a lot of time on anything, just rolling it over all the sides. So it just kind of eases the corners just a little bit, makes them not quite as sharp. Last thing you want is a little kid at Christmas getting a big huge splinter in their hand. Going over it, just once again, knocking off anything loose. Quick cleanup. Doesn't really change the texture of anything, just kind of takes the edges off it. Then the last thing I'll really be doing with the sander here is just barely rounding the corners over. Once again, just keeps it from being a finger pinch or finger poking kind of deal. I'm not making them super smooth and super beautiful round, just taking the tips off of them. There's less stuff for little fingers to get into. And now we're back to grabbing our paper towels we were using earlier. I did a double layer earlier, so now we're going to make it into 2 single layers just to kind of cover the workbench. And we'll be back into painting. And the paper towels are just something that I do. It's not mandatory at all. Do what you want to do. I have 2 workbenches and my other one is coated in paint, so it's not a consistent thing with me at all. So now we're going to actually go to painting this. This is the same Rust-Oleum stuff from earlier, just now in green. Like I said, I've been real happy with the paint so far, so I'm sticking with it for the moment. And this particular color is Hunter Green. It seems to be the most tree-looking color we can find. After a good shake, we'll open it up. And this is another thing that it does not have to be perfect. You wanna get a pretty good coverage on it, but it's not something you're worried at all about getting every little nook and cranny or anything. Just give it a real rough shot. Kind of the rougher it looks, the better it looks. And you definitely want to do a fairly thin coat, because if you let it puddle up, you'll get shiny spots, and it's not nearly as neat looking. You want it to be kind of rough, kind of dull, little shiny here and there, but not like a large section of it that's shiny. I go down each of the lines and hit the tops, what will be the tops of each branch section. So basically, that way when you're looking at it down from the top, you're not seeing a bunch of brown sections, you're seeing more green. And I also go through and do a little touch up here, wherever it looks a little bit too thin. And once again, kind of shooting randomly rather than coating the whole thing again, it gets a little bit more of a rough, rustic appearance. Then I go down the sides, make sure the ends of the branches are covered, and that's just to kind of give a little bit more of a complete look. And that's painted. So now we're going to watch this one dry too. Okay, now that everything's dry, this is the streaking that I was talking about earlier. It looks basically like grain on the trunk. It looks really, really good. The camera doesn't do it a whole lot of justice, but it looks really good close up. So now that that's all dry, now that the actual main part of the tree is dry, now we're going to do basically the exact same thing that we did on those diagonal supports. We're going to lay the trunk right where we want it, make sure everything lines up where we want, and just kind of check it. And then we're going to put dabs of glue right where each of the cross pieces will be. This I found is the easiest way, since there's not a lot of room to work with it side to side, so you can't set it next to it like on the diagonals. This works out pretty well. This way you can make sure you're pretty much in the center of every single one of the cross pieces, the branches, and just give yourself a nice little squirt there. It'll be lined up, but you won't be able to see any of it through the middle. Flip it over. It's right where it needs to be. Just give it a little squish around, keep it in place. Make sure the glue spreads out nice and even. Then we're back to our stapler. This time we're going to use 1-inch brads. The 1-inch, the trunk is a little bit thicker than the combination of the diagonals. So we're going to go 1-inch brads this time. It shoots through the trunk and goes right into the branches and keeps everything nice and tight. And like I said, the glue is the main holder of the fixture. The brads are just to keep it in place while the glue dries. Gives a little bit extra support, keeps anything from moving. So I've done 2 brads in each. Keeps it rock solid, keeps everything pressed together. And like I said, I'm doing the exact same thing as I did on the other one and kind of leaning into it on the table to make sure that anything that's not quite as thick or too thick kind of lines up and sticks to the back. Got just a little bit of tacky paint still on the front, but nothing too major. Comes off clean. And there's your finished tree. Now all it's got to do is just wait for the glue to dry, and we'll be ready to go. Might at a later date go through and paint these ends so you don't see the side supports at all, but that's what we got. Turned out real nice. I'm looking forward to assembling the other ones. Have some nice Christmas gifts. We talked about going to the office supply store and getting push pins for decorations. They make them with colored balls. They make them with all kinds of different things on them. And they'd be really, really easy to push in and have some nice little decorations. Make it look like a full-on Christmas tree. Thanks for watching our videos. We are hopefully going to be doing more and more videos showing little projects we do around the house. Me and a couple other creators getting together, showing you what we do. It's one of those things that nothing's too serious. We just have fun doing what we do. These projects that anybody could do at home. No real super special skills required or anything, so you can just have fun being a weekend hobbyist. No gigantic years and years of learning or anything involved, just having fun. So if you want to learn something, if you want to see some interesting little projects, join us. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and if you have any ideas for videos or would like to do a video, we also accept other creator submissions. So just get a hold of us and we'll get together on that. Love collaborations. So we'll see you in the next video. Thanks.